We are souls, eternal souls. When a mother gives birth to a child, she looks at them and God gives her a vision of the soul. What does a vision of the soul mean? It means seeing all the good in a person. That means the soul is shining through. You feel their soul. She says, "My little soul." This means you see all the good in the person. The soul has 3 kinds of good. The first kind of good is the desire to live. A little baby, when they are born, is so lively. This is called the desire to live, and everyone likes it. Everyone is touched by how active they are. This is how their desire to live manifests. Everyone likes it. Even an adult can display these energies of the soul. The more a person displays the energies of the soul, the more enjoyable it is to interact with them. Because through them this energy acts and you also receive some of it. The first energy of the soul is the desire to live, or prana. Prana is what resides in the subtle energy body. The desire to live in the soul, in the subtle energy body, prana. The second energy is the desire for happiness, not just to live, but to live happily. As they say, to live well is good, but to live happily is even better. Not just to live, but to live happily. And when a little child is born, sometimes they look at their mother and smile. They smile, meaning happiness, the desire for happiness, feelings of love awaken in them. They want to love, and the mother reacts, "Oh, how wonderful," and she begins to love them. Her energy of love starts to move in the relationship. Love manifests. The next energy is the energy of knowledge. Sometimes they just lie there looking around, observing. The energy of knowledge awakens through them. They learn. Everyone rejoices in all manifestations of the soul. When a child is yet little, their soul shines brightly. Their karma hasn't emerged yet. It's not visible. That's why when a person looks at them, they smile at little children. The desire to live, they wriggle around. The desire for happiness, they smile. And the desire for knowledge, they observe and study. These 3 desires of the soul are also liked by everyone. And these 3 desires of the soul, they not only pertain to relationships. Relationships proceed thus, but they also interact with the body, because the soul imparts its energy to the subtle energy body and the physical body. In the subtle energy body, there is an entire system that allows this energy to be transferred to the physical body. The most important channel, because the desire to live is most crucial. So the main channel runs from the crown to the tailbone, a very strong energy channel. It is the strongest subtle energy channel that runs through our entire body. This channel is called Sushumna Nadi. Nadi is a Sanskrit word meaning energy channels. Nadi is an indeclinable word. Nadi is Nadi always. This Sanskrit word means subtle energy channels. Sushumna refers to this particular channel through which the energy of prana moves. And if we speak in more detail, then when a person wants to live, what do? When a person wants to live, they inhale, they breathe in air, and their lungs fill with air. And we don't know that during this inhalation. They also make an invisible breath. Of course, these can be differentiated. Yogis, they know how to separate the invisible breath from the visible one and can breathe only with the invisible. Yogis can breathe without using their lungs at all. But we can't. When we inhale with our lungs, prana enters our body through the sushumna. The inhalation itself occurs through the crown center. There's a concept of chakras. All the chakras, these subtle energy centers, are connected with the sushumna, all exclusively with this channel. And each new center lower is like substations, transformer booths, that convert energy. Let's say there is a transformer booth. It takes energy, say 10,000 volts, and outputs 220. Thus, transformer booths reduce the voltage of energy. And similarly, chakras transform energy according to how it needs to be used. The lower the chakras, the coarser the energy they provide. It's not that, for example, if a chakra is in the forehead, it nourishes the brain. If a chakra is at the base of the spine, it only nourishes the lower part of the body. Chakras nourish, each chakra nourishes the whole organism. They are just different. You see how excited they are. They can't stop talking, even during the lecture. So the highest chakra is connected with the spiritual reality in general. The crown subtle energy center is linked to spiritual reality, and it is where the energy of prana enters. This prana is called mukhya prana. Mukhya meaning spiritual prana. This is not the energy of the material world. It is absorbed by the soul from the spiritual world. Our souls, though residing in the material world, are connected to the spiritual reality right here in this world. And thus through the crown center, mukhya prana enters the body. This mukhya prana is then transformed in the next subtle energy layer, in the forehead, known as the ajna chakra from the word for fire, and it is transformed into the energy of intellect. We have intellect, mind, and a person's ego. And this energy of the mind, all the subtle energy body. There is also the energy of intellect, and in the Ajna chakra, Prana provides the energy of intellect, and everything associated with intellect is nourished through the Ajna chakra. When the energy moves lower to the Vishuddha chakra, it then nourishes the mental energy, the mind. In the heart, the Anahata chakra, a person's emotions are nourished. Even lower, in the Svadhisthana chakra, what can be called pranic prana is nourished, as it is transformed into the prana of the entire body. And in the Muladhara chakra, this energy goes to meet the needs of the physical body. Thus, each lower chakra provides energy for more material needs of the body, replenishing it energetically. Well, prana flows, and it transforms in each chakra, and as it flows lower, it already moves in a transformed form and nourishes different functions of the body, this prana. Then there are two other channels on the sides, associated with two other energies. This connection is complex, and I'll explain it now. It may not always be understandable. The energy of knowledge flows through the right subtle energy channel, which is called Pingala Nadi. And the energy of knowledge, it is nourished by the sun and cleansed by water. This is a complex thing to understand. That is, we say that knowledge is cleansed by water. We talk about blockages related to knowledge being cleansed by water. Yet we say that when knowledge is disrupted, then a person feels hot. So what does water have to do with it then? Because when a person seeks knowledge, the energy of Pingala Nadi enters the right side, into the right ear, the right eye, the right nostril. Pingala Nadi is the right-sided subtle energy channel which is filled with fire. This is the fire energy, and it enters the male body 3 times stronger than in females. This fiery strength in men is 3 times stronger. And on the left side, the Ida Nadi enters the body through the left nostril, left eye, left ear, entering through these openings on the subtle plane. And it also flows down to the lower part of the body, and then at the bottom, they all connect together with the Muladhara, with this prana. They all transition into one energy structure. And Ida Nadi, this channel, is cleansed by the sun. That is, generally the Ida Nadi channel is associated with love or happiness. It is cleansed by the sun and filled by water. The sun purifies the energy of love, while water fills it, and therefore we say that the energy of happiness, the energy of love, is associated with the sun. We say it's connected with the sun, but actually, see, the connection here is that water fills the energy of love, the sun cleanses, while for the energy of knowledge, it's the opposite. The sun fills and water cleanses, but we use it for cleansing the body. We've grown accustomed to thinking that water cleanses knowledge. Water is somewhat associated with knowledge, while the sun is linked to happiness. We're used to thinking this way, but from an energetic perspective, it's more complicated. The sun fills the energy of knowledge. And this is male energy. Solar energy is male energy. If the sun represented happiness, it would be female energy. But the sun is male energy. It is associated with men, and therefore a man consumes more solar energy than a woman, but consumes it improperly. As a result, all men are prone to overheating. That is, men have a greater tendency to overheat than women. Therefore, men don't like the south as much as women. All women want to live in the south, to have more sun, because women are not prone to overheating, but men are. Women want the sun because, primarily, the energy of love flows through them, and this energy has a strong connection with water. Therefore, the female body has a lot of water energy, and the male body has a lot of solar energy. In men, the Pingala Nadi on the right side is 3 times stronger, more active than in women. In women, the Ida Nadi is 3 times stronger. That is, mainly the energy of love flows through women. And the prana is the same for everyone. Both women and men have the same amount of prana. Some believe that men want to live more because they have stronger bodies. And some believe that women want to live more because they do not go to war. They are supposedly afraid to fight, while men don't care. They die, perish in war. Thus they want to live less, some think. In reality, there are just 2 ways to live. One way is to conquer, the other is to avoid involvement. As we know, animals are divided into 2 types. Some behave aggressively. The best defense is offense. They attack if something goes wrong. Others run away. And this is the difference between men and women. Everyone wants to live. They just show it differently. Men want to live and they attack. Women want to live and they run. That's all. That's the whole difference right there. And the amount of prana is the same for everyone. Everyone strongly wants to live. because it's the strength of the desire to live that determines the amount of prana in the sushumna. If you don't want to live, then little prana flows there. If you want to live, then a lot flows in. And life means movement. For us, life means movement. The desire to live means movement for a person. So Mikhail is running now, and what is he doing? He's pumping the desire to live into his body. This means he will live long, unlike those who don't run. That's all, it's immediately clear. It's good to live long, right? Let's say. I'm now 58 years old. I meet friends who are, let's say, also 58. Well, my friends my age. I say, how are you? Cheerful like that. How are things? They answer, fine. They're not running anymore, not pumping prana. Already 58, it's already visible that a person is slowly starting to drift away from this world. But I'm not in a hurry. I'm fine. I run. I do static, dynamic fasting. I'm not planning to go anywhere yet. Because I'm pumping all energies into the body. They move normally and I can keep living. Everything's excellent. No problems at all. Well, that is, knowledge is power. Knowledge helps to love better and live longer. Therefore, knowledge is a very cool thing. It should be utilized. So there are three main subtle energy channels in our body connected to the soul. The soul has three energies: the desire for eternity, the desire for happiness, and the desire for knowledge. When the soul wants to conquer, overcome difficulties and sort out this life, overcome everything. Enough already. Then we are born in a male body. Because the desire to sort out this life, to overcome everything, to conquer, it activates the Pingala Nadi, and thus the subtle body is formed in a male type. And if, let's say, the soul wants love, harmony, is tired of fighting, and just wants simple happiness, well, just normal happiness, then the soul is born in a female body. They're fed up with the fighting, the war, trying to achieve something. They just want happiness, love, caress, and tenderness. Send everything else packing, then it's a female body. Then the Ida Nadi is activated, and the soul is born in a female body. Some scientists, like Chafin described, before us is such and such a painting, and there such and such an artist painted a hummingbird. But some Russian scientists think they are wild ducks. That is, scientists can have different opinions. Hummingbirds are painted, but our Russian scientists think they are wild ducks. Wonderful. So some scientists also depict male channels, female channels. There's a male side of the body and a female side of the body. And some scientists believe that this can all be changed. It's possible, for instance, to inject a person with hormones, and suddenly their Pingala Nadi flows 3 times less, and the Ida Nadi 3 times more, transforming them from male to female. But I want to warn you that when a person is injected with hormones, their inherent desires do not change. That is, their Pingala Nadi remains 3 times stronger, and their Ida Nadi remains 3 times weaker. Nothing changes, maybe a little. Of course, the desires themselves change the strength of the flow, but all this turns out pathologically for the person. Because if he was born with a strong Pingala Nadi, that is, born in a male body, then if he begins to behave in a feminine manner, his physiological functions are disrupted. Because the male subtle body is adapted to the functioning of the male subtle body, and the female body is adapted to the functioning of the female body. If you change gender, all these adaptations begin to break down, and no restructuring in the body will occur. Because gender can only be changed externally. At the level of deep human karmic tasks and the deep structure of the subtle body, all this is absolutely meaningless. Gender does not change. At the level of the subtle body structure, gender does not change. Of course, it can be changed through divine forces. If, for instance, angels intervene and they transform you from a boy into a girl using some kind of angelic tricks, then you can truly become a girl. That's the real deal. You'll then be a normal girl, not like how they do it. They make girls out of men, externally a man, but maybe he paints his lips, attaches artificial breasts, and thinks now he's a girl. But in reality he is still a boy, because his subtle body hasn't changed. But if angels were to change it, they might touch you with a magic wand saying, become a girl. And suddenly he goes la la la, starts smiling, becomes happy. This means that now everything is serious, truly transformed. Such things are also possible. Such cases are described in the Vedas, where such transformations occur as a result of certain mantras, the influence of divine forces. One can transform oneself into a girl or a boy using a mantra. This transformation would be complete, and it changes everything in the body, approximately like that. And around these 3 channels, a person's character revolves. Of course, there are many other subtle energy channels, but they all play a supporting role. Broadly speaking, when talking about the subtle structure of a person, it's very important to understand that it has a polar nature. For instance, on the right side, both in men and women, is the willful part of the body, the solar part of the body. The right eye, right ear, and right nostril have a solar nature. The sun primarily signifies the energy of will, overcoming difficulties, the energy of self-esteem, power, courage, endurance, knowledge, wisdom, generosity, and joie de vivre. All this is solar energy. There is lunar energy. Lunar energy is the energy of love, tenderness, happiness, care, sensuality, relaxation, peace, the energy of harmonious interaction with others, peaceful and kind energy. From the left side, the energy of Ida Nadi. It's also very important to understand, as some believe, the moon, darn, what is it? It's a reflection of the sun's energy. Therefore, a chicken is not a bird, a woman is not a person, as it were. The moon, after all, is not any energy, it's the sun reflected off a piece of rock, and that created lunar energy. That's what most people think. But ancient sacred Vedic scriptures explain it all differently. Actually, if you deeply meditate and try to understand the ancient scriptures, even our sun is not fully the sun. Because in reality, speaking of cosmic solar energy and looking, for instance, I see the sun right now in one place in Astana. But looking on the subtle plane, one can see that the subtle, invisible sun is probably about 10 times larger than this physical sun, referring to the size that I see now. I'm looking at the subtle, invisible sun. It has a wide disk, while our sun is much smaller, so they are different in size. Similarly, the moon. But the subtle, invisible moon is even larger than the sun overall, and this invisible moon is not our moon, not the one near Earth. This moon is located far away in the universe, and it provides lunar strength to all of Earth's satellites, and the real, subtle, invisible sun, which is home to the demigod Surya Dev, provides strength to all the stars in the universe. Imagine, all stars shine by virtue of this solar energy, not just our sun. If we assume our sun is the main one in our solar system, then we see other universes. But in fact, these are not other universes because we cannot see other universes at all due to the universe's shells, and the outermost shell is the first element of Earth. Nothing seeps through it, so in our universe, if anything seeped through, we would see other universes and the spiritual reality beyond. We would see the spiritual radiance that exists outside, but we see nothing. At night, when the sun doesn't shine, it's dark all around, we see nothing. Why? Because our universe is closed, and everything we see, all these stars, are inside our universe. There's only one sun, the subtle, invisible one that fills all these stars with energy. And there is only one moon, which fills with lunar energy. And from this perspective, both feminine and masculine natures are equally represented in this world in the form of subtle, invisible male energy and subtle, invisible female energy. And these subtle, invisible energies nourish our 2 subtle energy channels, Ida Nadi and Pingala Nadi. There is the right male side of the body, for example, the willful side, and there is the left side of the body, the emotional side. Therefore, the right eye has a willful function, will flows through the right eye for everyone, men and women, and through the left eye flows a person's emotions, flows love. For instance, some people are feminine, some are masculine. You can see this in their eyes. Let's say you look into the eyes. A person's eyes are always different. If a man's right eye is slightly more expressive, larger, stronger in size and more expressive, it means he is masculine. But if his left eye is a bit larger, stronger, more expressive, then he is a more feminine man. This doesn't mean he is like a woman, just that he has a more developed emotional component of life. Still, he has 3 times more Pingala Nadi and 3 times less Ida Nadi. But functionally, the left side of the body is more active. He invests more energy there in life. And if a girl's right eye is bigger, it means she puts more effort into the right side of her body and less into the left, meaning her willful functions are strongly engaged in life, although ideally, emotional functions or functions of love should be engaged. There are feminine women. For instance, if her left eye is bigger than her right, it means she has more feminine energies activated. Not that her channels work differently, but simply that the activation is more of a feminine type. And for a man, if the right eye is bigger, it means the activation is of a masculine type. For men, it is better to activate in a masculine way. It is more harmonious for a man. If his eyes are the same size or the right one is a bit larger and more expressive, that's normal. If a man's left eye is a bit larger and more expressive, it's not an anomaly, it's just his type. And for such a type of man, it's better if the woman's right eye is more expressive, meaning the man will have a more emotional nature and the woman a more willful nature. They will also match. This happens too. But a more harmonious combination occurs when the woman's left eye is slightly larger and more expressive, and the man's right eye is slightly larger and more expressive, or both eyes are equally expressive in both. If the woman's left eye is slightly more expressive and the man's eyes are the same, then there will not be a full energetic match between the people. And if the woman's left eye is more expressive and the man's left eye is also more expressive, then their life will be too emotional. They will be highly emotional, upset, and emotional. But if, conversely, both the woman and the man have a more expressive right eye, then they will argue and clash with each other, activating their willful functions more strongly. However, overall, this can still be overcome with the right mindset. If they show kindness to each other, they can still get along. Not that you should now determine who will live with whom based on their eyes. Suppose you set up eyes, measured, and said, well, that's it, part ways, your eyes are set up incorrectly. That's the wrong way of thinking. It's not the most important thing. The main thing is that the person is good. That kindness comes from the person. That's what's most important. So we don't get too bored. Since the material is complex, we'll also have a bit of fun sometimes, play some songs. Let's listen to some songs about the sun and the moon. And these two channels, Pingala Nadi and Ida Nadi, and how they are connected with the energies of the sun and the moon. Lunar energy signifies friends, hopes, dreams, flowers, being in love. All this is the energy of Ida Nadi. When it flows strongly, all these aspects begin to activate in a person. A woman ignites a man's infatuation. She nourishes his love. When a man becomes attached to a woman, he begins to love just as she does. The man nourishes, inspires the woman towards knowledge, towards growth, gives her strength, calmness, stability. The woman gives the man love. Thus, interaction between people occurs. A man is naturally joyful. Being naturally joyful means he is filled with solar energy. That means he is a source of solar energy. He is so happy, joyful. He is like a source full of solar energy. A man should be joyful. A woman is a source of love, so she looks gently, tenderly, meaning she transmits the energy of love. A man transmits joy. A woman transmits love, tenderness, caress. So each conveys their own solar energy. What is solar energy? The sun exists in both men and women, but in women the sun transforms into love. That means it purifies. Solar energy cleanses the Ida Nadi channel, and as a result, such a woman becomes beautiful. A radiant maiden. What does radiant mean? It means a solar maiden. Her energy of love is cleansed by the sun. In men, Ida Nadi represents water. So in men, the energy of water or the moon energy cleanses knowledge. His knowledge becomes calm, cool. There's even the English word cool. This means that the man is very rational, calm, cool, like in the song, "She's crazy like a fool," about Daddy Cool. It means the man is cool and calm. And she's head over heels in love with the calm, cool man. She's crazy like a fool about Daddy Cool. That means the energy of water cools the sun, and then the man becomes stable internally. And the energy of the sun ignites love and makes it bright, a fiery love. Love becomes fiery, intensely solar. If a girl is beautiful, her cheeks are glowing. It means she is ignited by the sun and can love strongly. And if the guy is calm, cool, sensible, it means he is cooled by the moon. So you see, it's important that these energies act harmoniously in a person. So we introduced the concept that Pingala Nadi should be cooled by the moon or water, and Ida Nadi should be warmed by the sun. Then harmony ensues. It's very important to know that all organs in the body are divided into 3 parts, associated with these subtle energy channels. Because in the human body, everything is divided exactly like this. In the human body, everything is designed in such a way that on the right side are organs that are mainly nourished by the energy of will. Everything on the right side is nourished by the energy of will. This includes the right kidney, liver, gallbladder, right lung, and the right side of the thyroid. Everything on the right is associated with willpower, and everything on the left is associated with love, human emotions. Everything on the right is connected with work. Everything on the left is mainly connected with personal life, relationships. Everything on the right is linked to activity, and everything on the left is mainly related to a person's feelings, their inner world. And in the middle is everything related to human behavior. Willful functions are related to the right side. Emotional or love functions are related to the left side. And the central part is related to everything connected with actions. Speaking of the central part, what organs are related to the central part? Mainly the organs of action. This is speech, the throat. For instance, there are vocal cords in the throat. They're connected with the energy of prana. If a person has a lot of prana, what kind of voice do they have? Their voice is powerful. Hello, hello, dear friends. So their voice sounds, ha 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 ha. Their voice is powerful, meaning it is saturated, full of prana. Sometimes there is a weak voice. How are you feeling? A weak voice means little prana. How to determine if a person, for instance, will recover or not? The doctor comes and says, how do you feel? The person is lying in bed and says, fine. One is ill, temperature is 40, but one says, fine. This means one has a lot of prana and one thinks fine, so they will recover. Or suppose the doctor comes and asks, how do you feel? The answer is barely audible, fine. In this case, there is no prana, which means it will not be as good as one would like. In other words, even by voice, you can determine how much prana a person has. Then, what do we have in the central part of the body? Trachea, esophagus, stomach, intestines, uterus, urethra, male and female sexual organs. All these action organs are connected with activity. The stomach is connected with activity. We use it to digest food. The mouth is connected with activity. We use it to eat. When they ask a boxer, when you box, what do you work with? He says, with my hands, of course, what else? In boxing, you only work with your hands. He's asked, do you work with your head? We don't work with the head in boxing. Well, do you use your head somehow in boxing? He thinks and says, I don't use it in boxing. How do you use it? He says, I eat with it. So the head turns out to be an organ of action. Everyone eats with their head. When we eat, it's an action directed at consuming food by the head. It is figurative if we speak of humans. But for example, if you look at animals, it's not a figurative action, but quite a factual one. For instance, a hippopotamus can open its mouth 3 times wider than its head. A hippopotamus can easily fit the head of another hippopotamus into its mouth. Or take a crocodile, for instance, it eats with its head. It has such huge rows of teeth. Its mouth is enormous. Take a dog, for example, it doesn't do anything with its paws. If a cat, say, or a tiger, they work with their claws. But a dog resolves all issues with its head. It fights, it bites, everything is done with the head. Therefore, the phrase, I eat by using head, is very significant both for the boxer and for animals. It is an organ of action. Organs of action are located along the central line of the body. The spine, too, it's the tree of life. It is an organ of action. It is an organ which allows us to act. If the spine is broken, a person can neither walk nor do anything. So all our actions rely on the spine. Therefore, all organs in the center are connected with prana. Prana signifies activity. On the left side, there are organs connected with emotions, love, and relationships. The heart is on the left side, as well as the pancreas, left kidney, left sections of the intestine, left lung, left part of the thyroid gland. All these are connected with personal life, with a person's emotions. The left eye, too. The right eye is connected with Pingala Nadi, the right ear, right nostril, right half of the skull. The right hemisphere of the brain is connected with a person's will. The left hemisphere of the brain is connected with thinking. On the left side, a person's thoughts move. But willpower or determination moves on the right side of the body. This does not mean that a woman lacks will. It just means her will may not lead to actions, as in men. Women's will leads to desires. There are 2 types of actions. There are actions resulting in deeds, and there are actions resulting in desires. A woman acts more by desires. That means her actions occur on a subtle plane. If she wants to get married, someone is immediately attracted to her, the man appears. If she wants a child, her hormonal functions start changing. Everything reconfigures to this desire for a child. But if a man wants something and does nothing, then it's a useless function for him. Well, not entirely useless, but significantly less useful. So a man needs to act in order to live. His will is directed into action, whereas a woman's will is in desire. If a woman's will goes into action, then her Pingala Nadi function is disrupted, causing tension in her body. Or if a man's will goes into desire, then his Pingala Nadi gets tense and leads to illness. So both women and men have will, they just act differently. Similarly, thoughts or desires, emotions for example, are on the left side. The energy of Pingala Nadi in men primarily goes into thoughts, while in women it mainly goes into emotions. Women experience an overflow of emotions. If men are agitated, men think. When women are agitated, they express their emotions. A woman doesn't think, she just becomes emotional, while a man engages in thinking during some emotional activity. Therefore, everyone is different, but overall, the functions of the male and female bodies differ from each other. What is disease? Disease means that we overload some side of the body through incorrect behavior. How does it happen? It can occur as a result of the person being misaligned, meaning one is engaged in the wrong pursuit. Supposedly both women and men should run, but they run differently. A woman should run being inspired by other people, meaning she should run from inspiration, while a man should run by forcing himself. This is the difference. A woman runs because she is inspired, while a man runs because he forces himself. The same is true for activities related to love. For a man, an activity related to love means that he needs to be inspired by love. Meaning it's easier for a man to be inspired to love if his wife inspires him to love. It's hard for a man to force himself to love because it's not in his nature. A woman needs to force herself to love, to care, to behave tenderly and affectionately. A woman forces herself in love, while a man needs to be inspired. Of course, a woman can also force herself to run, but this leads to tension and difficulties. And a man can also force himself to love, but that would be very strenuous. Therefore, there are primary activities for a person, and there are secondary activities. If a person does not engage in primary activities, their organs become tense. And if a person treats secondary activities as primary, their organs also become tense. For example, if a woman constantly forces herself, she will start having health problems on the right side of the body. Or if a man constantly forces himself to love, he forces himself to care, to behave affectionately all the time, he will experience tension in the organs on the left side of the body. In other words, tension stems from incorrect approach. It does not necessarily stem from selfishness, but rather from a misunderstanding of one's nature. Therefore, understanding is very important. A woman should be inspired to engage in willful functions, and a man should try to do everything with his own efforts. A woman is inspired, a man is activated. When we talk about love and care, the woman is activated, the man is inspired. This is the main activity, but this does not mean that a woman may say now, okay, let everyone inspire me, Dr. Torsunov, and I won't do anything myself. A woman also engages to some extent, and she should be inspired to engage, not just sit and wait to be completely inspired. A woman engages into activity too, but it comes after inspiration. For a man, the desire to love, to engage in love, in work, only comes after being inspired. Now let's look at how these organs on the right side, in the center, and on the left side of the body are specifically related to character. We need to separate them because they are all connected to character in different ways. Take the brain, for example. The brain has inspiring functions and tiring functions. The brain functions well and efficiently when a person is inspired to think. The brain is primarily a thinking apparatus, mainly for thinking, for mental work. The brain is mainly associated with the mind, with the activity of thoughts, the thinking process. And if a person likes to ponder something, say, by their nature they're inclined to ponder, to write poems or a book, they love thinking about how to write a book, then the brain tissue will not suffer much. Instead, they will feel very good, they will have more strength for development and thinking, so the brain tissues will develop. Therefore, if you want to develop the thinking process in a child, it's important to find exactly what direction they like to think in, and not force them to think in a direction they do not want. For example, if a child loves formulas, enjoys calculating and maths, let them engage in that. This is called the mountain system. If you take the highest point of a person's inspiration in life, say, their utmost inspiration is to study various plants, to delve into botany. If they spend 4 hours a day studying plants and another 4 hours on maths, physics, and chemistry, that's the mountain effect. The higher the peak of inspiration, the higher the slopes. If a person spends most of their time doing what they like intellectually, then they will also engage in what they don't like, because their thinking process will be highly active, and then there will be no diseases related to the brain. But if parents force the child to do what they dislike, like studying literature or memorizing poems which they do not enjoy, then what happens? There will be tension in the brain because the brain is not inspired but is under stress. It's important to understand that there are different functions, for instance, emotional thinking. Emotional thinking involves learning poems. Sad is the season of farewells, enchanting to my eye. I love the lavish withering of nature, the forests dressed in crimson and gold, in their solemnity, the winds whistle, and so on. This means that during thinking, a person uses strong emotions and the left hemisphere of the brain gets activated. I was using my left hemisphere just now. I want to be with you. Suppose negative emotions arise during thinking. Then there will be tension in the brain on the left side. When does a person's brain get tense? When they think too much. The difference lies in whether the thinking is positive or not. A person can joyfully chant, 2 times 2 equals 4. This develops the right hemisphere of the brain, and later they might win a maths Olympiad. Or a person might have emotional thoughts. For instance, someone composes poetry or paints pictures. In such cases of emotional thinking, the left hemisphere of the brain develops. But if a person uses coercion instead of inspiration in the processes of functioning of the brain hemispheres, it leads to brain tension. You see, the difference lies here. Suppose a person forces themselves, engages with willful processes, thus creating tension in the left part of the brain. For example, they start persuading themselves, yes, I need to go to the store and buy bread, but I really don't want to go to the store. I dislike going shopping, but still I have to go. And this happens constantly. If a person uses willful functions at work every day to force themselves to do something, their right side brain experiences stress. As a result, a stroke might occur. Most often it's a left-sided stroke because all the negative and heavy thoughts related to personal life accumulate on the left side. For example, a person is suffering and constantly thinks about their problem. Accumulating negative tension in the left side of their head, they force themselves to think about difficult things, which leads to building up tension. Thus, a person suffers thinking, cultivating negative thoughts, and then experiences a left-sided stroke, because thoughts reside in the third energy layer. If one ceaselessly thinks about how empty the world is without you, life without you, accumulating negative energies of love and all negative thoughts, it will reflect on the person's body. For instance, if a child is not taught to be inspired by activity and is always forced to do something, it will be very difficult for them. A child who doesn't experience inspiration will suffer. Essentially, brains suffer from incorrect engagement in mental activity, meaning the child forces themselves to do something using volitional functions while completely disregarding the emotional functions of inspiration. Brains are primarily the area of thought, therefore the vessels of the brain are the first to suffer from tension because the vessels of the head are in the third energy layer. Thinking is also in the third energy layer. Therefore, tension most often has an impact on the vessels of the brain. Mood also plays a role here. For example, a person may have a poor volitional mood. They think about how tired they are of everything. They don't want to go to work. They don't want to do anything at all. As a result, the tissues of the brain begin to suffer. This is already the fourth energy layer. Or for instance, a woman suffers and constantly lives with such thoughts and emotions. I'm tired of him. I don't want to live with him. I can't live with him anymore. She dislikes her man and constantly thinks about it. And this has an impact on the tissues of the brain. Brain tissue is a part of the nervous system, therefore diseases of the nervous system may develop. Memory problems begin, including the development of Alzheimer's disease. All these brain tissue diseases develop depending on the person's mood. No happiness in life, no mood. There are also deeper mental functions associated with nervous tissue. It's not about the brain cells, but about the conductors of the nervous system. Damage occurs at a deeper level. For example, a person faces a significant obstacle in life and cannot overcome it. They try hard, exerting a lot of effort. For instance, they need to pay off a mortgage, and they strain themselves and want to overcome fate. This can cause their nervous system on the right side to suffer. Or suppose a person is completely disillusioned with life. They don't want to live. They feel bad. Then the nervous system on the left side will suffer. A person disillusioned with life will have their brain suffer. When a person experiences a deep defeat in thinking and perception of the world, their brain and nervous system begin to suffer. So the person seeks some way out. They want to somehow feel nature. They feel no happiness in life. They say there's nothing to do in life, nothing to engage in. If they think there's nothing to engage in, it has an impact on the right side of their head. the nervous system suffers. If they think that life is bad, then the nervous system is impacted from the left side. If a person commits an incorrect action, we talk about thinking. There is emotional thinking and volitional thinking. Either the right or the left side of the head suffers. There may also be incorrect psychological activity. Suppose a person is deeply distressed by what they are doing. Suppose they are forced to kill someone. They don't want to kill, they are forced to act. Then the central part of the head may be affected. So, when there is any disruption in the function of action, specifically deep action, then the human brain suffers, because the brain is connected with very deep psychological processes. It may concern deep thinking processes, or some deep processes related to life as a whole. Therefore, when a person's brain suffers, it always generally means that the person perceives everything in life very deeply. They don't just take it to heart, they take it very deeply. They destroy the very foundations of their life. This is called mental tension. When a person experiences mental tension, the brain always suffers. Remember this. Now the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is generally associated with emotions because it is the throat psychological center. The Ajna chakra is responsible for a person's thinking, for the activity of intelligence, the interaction of thought with the person's intelligence, whether their existence is rational or irrational. The throat psychological center is the center of emotional expression. This is a mental platform, an emotionally mental platform. When a person tries to normalize their sensory activity, there are also negative volitional emotions. There are negative emotions in love, negative emotions in actions. But these emotions are related to thinking. When does the thyroid suffer? When a person reacts very emotionally to someone's words, to someone's thoughts. So, this interaction of thoughts and emotions has a very strong impact on the activity of the thyroid gland. And when, for example, one has very tense speech, then the vocal cords suffer. And the throat can also suffer when the speech is tense. Even when a person speaks, it starts to hurt right there from the words themselves. It hurts because of the words one says. When one speaks like that, one strains their vocal cords, their throat. Therefore, the throat suffers from negative emotions in speech. And the thyroid suffers from negative emotions in thinking, specifically emotions, because the brain is connected with deep experiences, not emotions. Emotions are external, like, I hate everyone. When a person thinks emotionally, then their thyroid suffers, and the eyes bulge out, the heart beats. When there is emotional thinking, the thyroid suffers. But when one thinks, well, everything's bad, damn, it's the end, then the person's brain suffers. When does the thyroid gland become depleted? When a person thinks about everything with negative emotions. The brain becomes depleted when a person doesn't want to work but has to. One has very strong and deep contradictions in activity, in thinking, in willpower. Deep contradictions mean their brain will suffer. What concerns the eyes, the sensory organs, it's very simple. When you don't want to look at this world, when you're displeased looking at everyone, when egoism has accumulated in the eyes, then the eyes will suffer. If egotism has accumulated in listening, then the ears will be affected. If egotism has accumulated in your sense of smell, you won't be able to smell anything. In other words, where egotism accumulates, there will be disorders. Disruptions in all organs and systems are always connected with egotism. Egotism means that you don't want to take care of others. You want to take care of yourself. This is egotism. For example, you don't like looking at something. It means you don't allow the world to be as it is. Or you don't want to listen. It means you don't allow it to be as it is. It's just necessary to understand that the sense organs represent the perception of the world. Each psychic structure has its own perception. Each sense organ has its representative. For example, the eyes represent a person's mind. The mind is what one thinks, what one contemplates. And so a person's look is connected with their fate. A person's fate is reflected in their eyes. If you want to understand what period a person is going through, look into their eyes. A person's speech is connected with their intelligence and with their perception of life. Sometimes a person may be going through a tough period, but they have a good perception of life. Then their speech will be positive, having a good influence. A person's speech is connected with their perception of life, with their intelligence. A person's gaze is connected with the mind. And listening is also connected with intelligence. When intelligence is affected, a person's hearing suffers. They don't want to hear anyone. You know, deaf people use a device. Once I communicated in a center for the deaf people. We wanted to give a lecture in a center for the deaf. And there was a disabled woman in this center for the deaf. She had a device in her ear. And she was simply an administrator. We decided to give a lecture to other deaf people, and she was supposed to call the management. And she said, "I don't want to listen to you. What are you going to speak about here? I don't like you. I don't want to hear what you will be speaking about." And we couldn't explain anything to her because she didn't want to listen. It was precisely because she did not want to listen that she became deaf. So it's very difficult to negotiate with them. Even though she has a device and supposedly hears, she doesn't want to listen. Therefore, a disease of the auditory organs means that a person has a lot of egotism in their intelligence. There's a lot of egotism in listening, so the ears suffer. What is egotism in the heart? Our heart is on the left side. And what is the heart connected with? It is connected with the Anahata chakra. The Anahata chakra is responsible for love, for emotions. If the Vishuddha chakra is more about mental activity and emotions connected with thoughts, then the Anahata chakra is about emotions, only emotions. And the heart is the organ of the Anahata chakra, which is connected with emotions of love, emotions of relationships, emotions of familial bonds. For instance, if someone feels love, if they love deeply, then their heart rejoices. They feel good. They experience such joyful emotions of love. But if the emotions of love are negative, then the heart suffers. A person doesn't necessarily have to love someone close to them. They could just love an entire city, for example. The heart thrives on such emotions. When the heart rejoices in something, enjoys the emotions of love, beauty, then the heart is replenished, it comes alive. But when the emotions are negative, when everything is bad, everything in life is destroyed, then the heart suffers, it is distressed. Then one develops diseases. When one takes something hard, it leads to illnesses. Let's find a positive song so as not to harm anyone's heart. Heart energy is positive. But when it's mixed with the negative energy, we struggle. Positive emotions of the pancreas are tenderness. The pancreas embodies tenderness, whereas negative emotions of the pancreas are disgust. The pancreas suffers from disgust. I have such songs about entirely negative emotions of the pancreas. If you want to challenge your pancreas, listen to the sounds of mu. It's the best option because it very well expresses disgust. You can understand how the pancreas suffers if you immerse yourself in this band, in listening to all these sounds. The kidneys are connected to a person's subconscious, with deep satisfaction or dissatisfaction in life. For example, if there's emotional dissatisfaction, then the left kidney suffers. My computer couldn't handle the sounds of mu, and I had to reboot it. The computer glitched, and Zoom stopped working. That's how it happened. We were talking about kidneys, we stopped at kidneys. And kidneys are an organ of deep satisfaction or deep subconscious dissatisfaction. And now we'll also listen to some songs. Now we will listen to songs related to deep satisfaction to understand emotionally what it is. It's just starting up. This is a state of deep satisfaction. It nourishes the kidneys. Kidneys become healthy and happy when this occurs in a person. The next song illustrates kidney diseases. Kidney diseases arise from deep dissatisfaction. When a person experiences total dissatisfaction with life, dissatisfaction with their inner state, this is the left kidney failing. When close the door behind me, I'm leaving, it's the left kidney that will fail. And now, the right kidney will be failing. This is a metaphor from song, how our body acts to a certain behavior. Now let's talk about the liver. The liver is the organ of willpower efforts. When a person has a sick liver, they lose the ability to work. Their capacity for work suffers greatly. They feel lethargic and tired. When a person exerts excessive willpower at work, the liver gradually becomes overstrained, and then the liver becomes sick. Any liver diseases mean that the will is affected. It becomes very difficult for the person to perform any willful actions. When a person feels joyful, a kind of joyful willpower, it means the liver is healthy. If, for example, we were to pick a song for a healthy liver, or one that heals the liver. By the way, you can perform treatments with songs. You can do therapy for different organs using music therapy. Pick music for each organ and treat it with songs. Now let's listen to a purely liver healing song for the liver. When willpower functions are restored, then a person's liver starts to function normally. This is purely a liver-activating song that stimulates life forces, the desire to live, to overcome, to conquer, to fight. And if we want to listen to a song that restrains the liver, that too is a matter of willpower, energy associated with negative emotion. When a person's will is linked with negative emotions, the liver gets damaged. The state in which people are in war, witnessing their relatives and friends being killed, their homes destroyed, and their fates shattered, leading to the impossibility of being together, causes a severe overload of the liver. This bile then starts to enter the bloodstream. Negative volitional emotions arise when a person sees violence occurring and feels powerless to stop it, leading to liver overload. Liver diseases start, and the liver suffers. Conversely, good energy in the lungs and liver is represented by a song, Komsomol Youth. We listened to Vysotsky about bad energy in the liver. Now we'll determine which diseases are associated with which songs. The lungs are paired organs that suffer from emotions and pain. They are the organs of a person's activity, volitional and emotional activity. Essentially, a person's desire to live or the reluctance to live is specifically a function of the lungs. This is actually a continuation of the energy of prana in the Pingala Ida Nadi channels. The lungs embody the desire to live, primarily connected with prana, but they still manifest at the level of human emotions and will, particularly in relation to the desire to live. When a person emotionally wants to live, then the left lung activates and is nourished with energy. Our healing songs are by Antonov, so here's a song related to the desire to live. Specifically, the activation of the left lung is associated with the desire to live, with joy. The lungs also signify joy and the emotional desire to live, such an activation of the emotional desire to live. The desire to live is so emotionally tied to love, to such relationships. It's the energy of the left lung. So it means that it's tied to love, the kind when a person feels that the desire to live is specifically connected to love, to relationships, to beauty. And when the desire to live is connected to will, to volitional functions, then it's the right lung. When the joy of life fades, which often happens in war, then the lungs become very weak. Tuberculosis is a disease of life's disillusionment. When a person doesn't feel the joy of life, doesn't feel happiness in life, and they become disheartened. Then the lungs first become weak, and then tuberculosis takes hold, and then the person develops pulmonary diseases. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon. We are souls, eternal souls. The soul has three main energies in its consciousness. The soul has consciousness. This is the radiance of the soul, this consciousness. And in consciousness there are three main energies. There is the energy of eternity. It's the main one. It's central. Everyone wants to live. This is the main desire in a person, the energy of happiness and the energy of knowledge. For the soul to live in the material world, it needs a subtle energy body. Without a subtle energy body, you can't survive in the material world. To interact with physical energy, you first need subtle energy. Subtle energy, it differs from physical energy. Modern science, for example, does not distinguish between them. It says, let's measure your biofield with instruments. And they start trying to measure a person's subtle energy with wave-like methods. But a person's subtle energy is even finer than these waves. Take, for instance, the energy of thought. It spreads at an enormous speed even within the solar system. If a person were on the moon, you could contact them, feel how they are feeling in a fraction of a second through thoughts. Over long distances. Why do I say this? Because I feel people. I have studied that. I feel people who have left this life. Many of them now live on other planets, Earth-like or in paradise. And I roughly feel what their mood is now, what's happening with them. If there's contact with a person, you can feel them. Contact means connection, especially with relatives. And it happens instantly. Contact with a person through the energy of thought occurs very quickly, practically instantaneously. This energy is in no way connected to any waves, protons, electrons. It's subtle energy. Subtle energy can only exist next to the soul. A stone, physical matter, it can exist by itself. The Lord maintains physical energy in this world, while subtle energy clusters around living beings. Therefore, the signs of life are the presence of subtle energy. Subtle energy is the energy of the mind, intellect, and human ego. This is subtle energy. And all these subtle energy channels, this is all the energy of the mind, because intellect and ego are subtle mental settings. And the energy of the mind, it's fundamental. It's the framework of the subtle energy body in which a person lives. Therefore, for the soul to send these main energies into the subtle energy body, it begins with these three energies. First, the energy of prana enters. The energy of eternity enters the subtle energy body and is called the energy of prana. When the energy of knowledge enters the subtle energy body, it's called the energy of tejas. And when the energy of happiness enters, it is called the energy of ojas. Three main energy channels start moving through the body. Consequently, the organs connected with will, with voluntary processes, they group around the subtle energy channel through which the energy of tejas or the sun flows. This is the right side of the body. The main organ related to will, which is connected with volition in a person, is the liver. Because it is all on the right side, and when a person's voluntary processes suffer primarily, it is the liver that suffers first. There are organs connected with conscious processes, with our thinking, for example. They are located in the front part of the body. These are mainly the liver, pancreas, stomach, bronchi, and there are organs connected with the subconscious part of life. When we are not thinking, not pondering, just tired, for example, overloaded. These are the kidneys, spine, lungs. This is more of the subconscious part. There are organs located at the back. This is the subconscious. And there are organs located at the front. This is the consciousness. On the left side, where the Ida Nadi flows, the energy of ojas, there are organs related to the processes of love, with emotional processes, voluntary processes, the right side of the body, actions, deeds that a person commits, the central part of the body, organs associated with prana. We discussed which organs are associated with which personality traits in a person. We talked about the kidneys, that this is the subconscious. Such deep subconscious fatigue can overload the kidneys, or conversely deep rest, deep tranquility. We played the turtle song that goes, I'm lying in the sun, chilling. This is the renal energy of rest and renal fatigue. We played Soy's song, when there's a very strong deep tension. Close the door behind me, I'm leaving. Something like that. When the liver is sick, we played Vysotsky's song, about war, about hatred. That hatred oozes from the psyche, and so on. The heart. About a sick heart, it's good to play Demis Roussos, this sick heart. When a person tragically perceives what happens in life. We didn't play the sick heart. We can play it. I will always return to you in dreams. These are such heartfelt songs. When the heart suffers. Jackals, when they howl at the moon, it also happens with their heart energy. This is such heartfelt energy, such despair. The lunar energy, that's precisely the Ida Nadi. The Ida Nadi gets overstimulated at night. Each organ has its own emotion, its energy. Speaking of the central, the organs of action are associated with prana. The intellect is connected with prana. The intellect is located in the area of the crown, at the forehead in the upper part, where the center of intellect is. If a person takes an active stance in life, their intellect functions better, specifically thinking. The intellect is connected with thoughts and therefore makes better decisions. When a person is in a passive state, say, they are sleeping in bed, their prana functions poorly, they make poor decisions. They cannot make decisions because they are relaxed. In the center is another representation of the intellect. It checks all information with the oversoul, with God. It's called the third eye. This is the area where a person verifies all information with God. When a person sees everything, feels everything, it means that this intellect of connection with God is working strongly. He compares everything he feels and sees with the understanding of God. This is the third eye. Below, in the area between the eyebrows, a person has volitional functions. Will is located there. Functions of the intellect are spread across the entire forehead. A person's nose is associated with attention concentration. If a person has a runny nose, it indicates tension in their attention concentration. The throat is a part of the emotional organ. The action of emotions goes through the throat. It's an active organ. A person also speaks. If a person's speech is tense, then the vocal cords suffer. The bronchi are also connected with the desire to work. If a person doesn't want to work, they have asthma. That means they don't want to labor, they don't want to work. Then the bronchi start to overstrain. More precisely, not that they don't want to. A person works, but they don't like to work. Then the bronchi will overstrain, and that will lead to asthma. The trachea is associated with satisfaction in activity. When a person generally does not like their job, their trachea suffers. They work, but they do not like their job, then the trachea suffers. If a person does not enjoy their job, then the stomach suffers. When I was in the army, I did not enjoy it at all. It was so hard for me. And towards the end of my service, blood started coming from my stomach. I seemed healthy, but I was coughing up blood. It was seeping from the stomach towards the end. When a person loves it, revels in their work, enjoys their job, then the stomach is healthy. But if a person works and really dislikes the job, then the stomach becomes sick. The intestine is connected with the energy of activity. For example, when a person acts lazily, they have constipation because the food moves slowly through the intestine. If a person acts very excitedly, works in an overexcited manner, then they might also have constipation or diarrhea from the overexcitement. The sexual organs are connected with the activity of pleasure. The lower the organs, the more they are connected with pleasure. The higher central organs are more associated with a person's duty, speech, some volitional centers, and so on. And the lower the organs are in the body along the center, the more they are associated with pleasure. And the lower sexual organs are mainly associated only with such coarse pleasure from the opposite sex. And when a person is very crude about this, they want to greatly satisfy their sexual desires, enjoy the opposite sex, then their sexual organs become overexcited. This leads to various diseases. It happens from unrestrained desires, desires for pleasure. Sometimes diseases arise when there is some failure in sexual relations, then the person also becomes sick. Or if they don't have access to sexual relations and they strongly desire it, such diseases start to develop, or from excessive sexual relations. Too much energy goes there, it becomes overexcited, heat arises in the sexual organs, and so on. Likewise, very coarse emotions of hatred, malice also reflect on the sexual organs. Generally, the anus is considered the path to hell for a person. There is the lowest hell, and 3 emotions related to the lowest subtle energy centers in a person. These are said to be the 3 roads to hell: anger, greed, and lust. Lust, anger, and greed are the 3 gates to hell. The 3 roads to hell are all connected with the lower subtle energy channels. These lower subtle energy channels become overexcited when a person harbors such emotions: lust, anger, and greed, 3 gates to hell. The spine, this is the tree of life. The spine in general is associated with the desire to live. And the upper part of the spine is more connected with higher aspects of life. When a person engages more in spiritual practice, then the activation of the upper parts of the spine occurs. When a person, on the contrary, has more base instincts in their life, they desire an apartment, a car, a family, children, sex, then the middle and lower parts of the spine. When a person wants a family, the middle section of the spine engages in life. When it's about sex, the lower section of the spine engages. The spine is a subconscious organ, connected with the desire to live overall. Certain parts of the spine are engaged according to your perception of life, so the spine is strongly connected with the subconscious. When a person becomes disappointed, let's say, in their sexual life, then the lower part of the spine starts to suffer. Prana doesn't flow there. They begin to experience stagnation in the lower pelvis. When a person becomes disappointed in their spiritual life, the upper part of the spine functions poorly. The middle part functions poorly when they are disappointed in their personal life, in the family. Overall, there are different spheres of life. The head in general is connected to the process of knowledge and is most involved in the spiritual sphere of life. The area of love is in the middle of the body, the heart. The area of enjoying food is the stomach. All organs suffer from improper eating habits. These include the liver, pancreas, intestines, and gallbladder. And the area associated with enjoying sex is the sexual organs and kidneys, meaning the lower part of the body. The desire to perform asceticism practice, physical labor, involves all the muscles. If a person does not want to perform asceticism practice, the muscles atrophy. When a person wants to overcome difficulties in life, their resilience is connected to the skeletal system. Bones strengthen when a person is resilient and enduring, and muscles strengthen when a person tends to engage in physical labor and asceticism practices. Joints are connected to the ability to endure or be in despair. When a person is patient, they have strong joints. When they are in despair, the joints deteriorate. Despair generally destroys joints. So, our emotions vary. Character traits are linked to our health. Greed increases excess weight. The fatter a person, the more greed they have inside. Greed means that a person wants things for themselves. For instance, when a person accumulates stuff in their apartment, they tend to accumulate excess substances in their body. When a person gives away property, the tendency to accumulate decreases, and their body starts to work more towards decreasing these substances. So, the body mirrors the person's desires. When a person wants to hoard, their excess weight increases, and when they want to give, it decreases. Not physically, but the tendency to gain weight decreases. That means the metabolism will either dissolve substances or accumulate it. If a person is more inclined to give, their metabolism will enhance dissolution. And if they are inclined to take, then their metabolism will intensify accumulation. I had such an interesting case. My wife generally likes to take things and give them away somewhere. She does it with her own things, with other people's things. And she calls it magical cleaning. She visits a friend's house, women love to accumulate things, and she takes things that her friend doesn't need. The friend herself can't part with things, it's hard for her. And my wife says, "Do you need this item?" "No." "Then let's donate it to the orphanage." And she collects all the stuff from her friends, puts it in a box, and takes it somewhere. She gives it to people in need, and then her friend breathes a sigh of relief, feeling that it's become easier to live in her house. We had a case where a woman was suffering from lymph node cancer. The disease is called lymphogranulomatosis. My wife went to her home and saw that everything was severely cluttered. She spent a week cleaning up. She removed half of the apartment's items, even furniture. And the woman's illness began to disappear, and she felt it became easier to live in her apartment. She immediately felt that the tumor started to shrink in size. It really happened like that. I saw how accumulating things is connected with accumulating toxins in the body. The more things a person hoards, the more toxins are in the body. And of course, the clutter in the apartment is also related to toxins in the body. That's why women are intuitively inclined to clean their apartments, to tidy up everything. Because in this way, they are cleansing the space they live in from toxins. They cleanse their subtle body. That means a woman's subtle body is cleansed from toxins through cleaning the apartment, because people's intelligence works differently. A man cleanses his consciousness through achievements. For example, he engages in training, achieves things at work, and this is how he clears his intelligence through accomplishments. A man cleanses his intelligence with willpower. A woman, on the other hand, cleanses her intelligence through cleaning of her house. To purify her intelligence, she needs to do cleaning of her apartment and maintain purity in her heart and in relationships. Cleanliness should be everywhere. She doesn't like dirt. When there is dirt, a woman becomes befouled by it, losing clarity of her intelligence. If dirt starts to accumulate in relationships or in the apartment, she loses her intelligence, and she can no longer distinguish between what is good and what is bad when surrounded by dirt. That's why women intuitively clean up, trying to keep the dirt away. Otherwise, their perception gets disrupted. Therefore, even bodily functions are related to actions. For instance, if a person commits a cruel act, they experience a tension in their body. They start to have inflammatory processes, ulcers, and various sores. All this is related to cruelty, anger, excess heat in the body, inflammatory processes, and resentment. Greed leads to the accumulation of toxins. Lust increases heat in the sexual organs, and a person's character deteriorates from it. They become more angry and resentful due to lust. When a person eats meat, their perception becomes more coarse and their thinking more rigid. Depression accumulates in the psyche from meat consumption, leading to a sense of doom. Meat eating accumulates cruel events and a cruel fate in a person's life. Those who eat meat are more prone to experiencing violence in their lives. This is how meat eating affects us. Everything we do is connected to our character in one way or another. And character, of course, is also related to the environment where a person lives. For instance, water is a generally merciful environment. It softens the character. People who live near water, like the Baltic people, have a more gentle, sensitive, and tender character, more inclined towards the energy of love. Continental climates lead to harsher, more severe energies. For example, Kazakhstan has a sharply continental climate. I am currently in Kazakhstan. Here people tend to be more reserved and behave more rigidly. This is due to the influence of the continental climate. When there is a lot of land or little water, mountains make a person very determined. Their character becomes tough, sometimes even harsh. Highlanders have a firm, unyielding character. They quickly enter a decisive state, capable of overcoming everyone. People who live on islands have a very gentle and calm character, to the extent that they can be a bit lazy. When people live on islands, their character tends to be relaxed and carefree. I know someone who went to an island country. He's a constructor. He decided to build real estate there to sell and make some money. He encountered a problem that people there were doing everything very slowly. It was practically impossible to get them to work actively. All projects took a very long time to complete. They were even willing to work for a small amount of money, but couldn't work quickly. They worked 3 or 4 times slower than Europeans would. So in island countries, people work very leisurely and languidly because the sun and water make a person too relaxed. When there's a combination of sun and water, solar energy relaxes by itself, and water relaxes too. When people are under the influence of the sun, they become leisurely, and under the influence of water, they become relaxed. If it's an island nation with no mountains, just flat land, a perfectly flat island, then people are completely relaxed. This is very evident in Thailand, for example. There's a lot of sun and people are very relaxed. There's a lot of water and sun and they are relaxed. So it has a strong impact. The north makes people less temperamental, more introspective, and more thoughtful. Northerners tend to be slow. When I arrived in Reykjavik, it's a very northern country. It's a country with volcanic soil. There are volcanic soils which are like pumice. This is the kind of stone used to scrub heels. It's a volcanic rock. Everything there is covered in this pumice. So there's almost no soil, no land at all. Everything is just porous volcanic rocks. They're all covered in green moss, even in the summer. I was there in the summer, and the moss was everywhere. Geysers erupt so strongly that entire lakes of hot thermal water spread out. The thermal springs create entire lakes in various colors, yellow, green, and others. And there's a hydrogen sulfide smell coming from them. There are very small fir trees like little bushes, and no other trees at all. It's an amazing place. And everything is green because everything is covered in moss. It's all greenish-gray, creating a surrounding atmosphere. Moss is everywhere. People are very slow and completely emotionless. Their gaze is very calm and glassy. They have a sluggish look, and they are very thoughtful. Houses are very simple, with no decor, plants, or anything like that. It's just a house standing there with no greenery. Just a house and a fence. That's how they live. Just a house and a fence. Nothing grows inside because it's the far north. Nothing grows there. In the summer, it's always day, and in the winter, it's always night. There are only 2 seasons and 2 times of day and night. So in the summer, it's like a day without the sun. And in the daytime, it's dark. It's an interesting place to live. People there are gloomy, introspective, always thoughtful, and inclined towards alcohol. By the way, the further north people live, the more they tend to drink. This happens because static tension accumulates intensely. The further south people live, the more dynamic tension accumulates. People tend to smoke more, chew betel, and use various drugs. So everything varies greatly depending on the location. The energy is different, and people's susceptibility to diseases varies. And of course, everyone mainly seeks out places with plenty of water and sunshine because that's where the most pleasure is. In general, looking at the cardinal directions, the south increases pleasure for a person but shortens life expectancy. The north increases deep thinking. The west increases inclination towards activity, while the east increases inclination towards personal life. I came to Kazakhstan, and here everyone has 4 or 5 children. They have strong family traditions. About 300 people come to weddings. They constantly gather with their families. In the West, there's a tendency towards work. Everyone works hard. Families don't gather much. People even live separately within their own families. In the South, people mainly enjoy life, relax, and savor it. In the North, people are very introverted and introspective. In the South, people are open and outgoing. In the North, people are introspective. That's why we know songs about southern latitudes or island states. As for the phrase, we don't know any troubles, I'm not so sure about that, because everything there is different. For example, in India, it's very easy to catch typhoid fever. Just don't wash your vegetables and you get typhoid. For instance, I heard in Miami that a 10-meter boa can easily get into your home. Or if you decide to swim, you might meet a crocodile that could easily chew off half your leg. No problem at all. There are also venomous snakes that can bite you. I decided to swim in a holy water body in India. As soon as I approached the water, I saw a venomous snake swimming there. I thought, well, this is great. One might die there. I decided not to swim and just sprinkled some water on my head. So, it's about the phrase, we don't know any troubles. For example, in Europe, when you walk through the forest, you have a full guarantee that you won't step on a cobra or a scorpion. But in India, there's no such guarantee in the forest. There's a 100% chance of encountering all kinds of creatures. Or on those islands, it's unclear who lives there. So there are just countless creatures. The further south, in the tropics, where there is a lot of vegetation, the more creatures live there. And one has to struggle to survive there, being threatened by infections or various snakes. For example, in the Amazon, there are even butterflies that bite with a deadly sting. A butterfly lands on you, touches you with its proboscis, and you die. Even butterflies, can you imagine that? And what to say about other insects? There are trees that capture people and drain their blood. For example, if you decide to sleep near one of these trees, you might wake up completely entangled in branches, which are draining your blood. Some trees wrap around quickly with branches attacking the living being, twisting and not letting it escape, and then starting to drain all the blood. So it's quite an adventure down south. As for the phrase, "we don't know troubles," I wouldn't say it's all that simple. You need to keep your wits about you. There are 5 pranas, or 5 energies, that also affect diseases and a person's character. The most important is prana. This prana enters the body from the cosmos and is distributed in all 4 directions, or rather in all 4 dimensions to be precise. The first type of prana goes upward and cleanses the consciousness. It is associated with human reason, thinking, and is called udana prana. It increases optimism, enhances a person's sense of happiness, the ability to overcome fate, tackle difficulties, and is related to determination, willpower, and intelligence, among other things. In general, people whose udana prana moves strongly upwards are very optimistic. Usually when udana prana has been moving strongly upwards since childhood, the person is tall. Udana prana can be uplifted with the help of fruits, mainly fruits that grow on trees. Berries don't increase udana as much, but fruits like apples, pears, persimmons, dates, oranges, mandarins, and pomegranates do. These fruits that grow on trees help increase udana. When a person has depression or depressive tendencies, it means they lack udana. Morning time also increases udana and lifts it upwards. When a person gets out of bed, their udana starts to rise. Eating fruit, drinking fruit juices, and having bananas or dates in the morning can help cope with depression. Fruit-based diets can be effective. The next prana is called apana. Apana is a type of prana that directs energy downward. It increases sexual desires, greed, drowsiness, and hunger. All worldly and physical desires, such as desires for food, sex, sleep, self-defense, grow with apana. Egoism also increases due to apana. Apana also affects reproductive functions. When a baby is developing in the womb, apana is very active and goes downward. This is why a woman may become moody, irritable, sensitive, and emotional as apana moves downward. She will also have a stronger appetite. Apana causes increased physical desires during pregnancy, but women generally have more apana in their bodies, while men have more udana. This is why women are more inclined to rest, lie down, and relax. Men, on the other hand, are more inclined toward active pursuits. However, this doesn't mean that women are always relaxed and men are always active. Some men, contrary to their masculine nature, have more apana functioning in them. By the way, if a man's apana is active, it can really spoil his character, whereas for women, active apana makes them kinder, gentler, and more affectionate. So, apana doesn't spoil a woman's character, it's part of her natural energy. This is why women's bodies tend to have more fluid, as apana softens their body's energy, while udana makes it more active and focused. The next type of prana is called vyana. This prana directs energy outward and is connected with interaction with the environment and climate. It circulates within the skin. For example, when people bathe in an ice hole, their skin turns red because vyana is activated. Vyana is a protective energy of the body. Everything related to the body's external protection, such as from the sun, water, or wind, is governed by vyana. Vyana also affects thoughts and the thinking process. For instance, when a person goes out into nature, it's easier for them to think. Vyana is also responsible for overall circulation in the body, including the circulation of substances and blood. Another type of prana is samana. This prana directs energy inward and is responsible for digestion, absorption of food, and everything related to digestion. So there are 5 types of prana. One enters the body, another directs energy upward and is responsible for the development processes. Third is apana, which directs energy downward and is responsible for rest, including sleep. If a person's sleep is disturbed, it means apana is affected. When a person's natural physiological processes are disturbed, it's all related to the pranas. If a person is overexcited and their udana doesn't calm down, it doesn't go down by evening, they won't be able to fall asleep. If udana is active, they won't fall asleep. Udana and vyana disrupt sleep. When a person is active and has a strong energy exchange with the environment, for example, if they are lying outside and the wind is blowing hard, Vyana gets activated and they can't fall asleep. When they cover themselves from the wind or protect themselves from the environment, Vyana calms down and they fall asleep. Turning on the light also activates Udana, therefore it's hard to sleep with the light on. It's better if the light is off. Apana increases, relaxing the person. If Apana is too strong, it's hard for a person to get out of bed or wake up. Women often find it difficult to get out of bed because they naturally have more Apana in their bodies. When Vyana is excessively activated, it can cause itching and skin conditions. This is due to overexcited Vyana. When Samana is overstimulated, it increases heat in the digestive organs and can lead to inflammatory processes. By the way, increased Apana also leads to excess weight in the body. Therefore, women are more prone to excess weight than men because their Apana is stronger. These pranas also affect character. Apana increases greed. Udana increases irritability if it's not functioning properly. Samana can also increase irritability. Udana stimulates overexcitement and agitation. Vyana makes a person restless and anxious. So, pranas can function incorrectly. They can become overstimulated and interfere with good health. Apana can be balanced through proper rest. If a person regulates their rest correctly, Apana is balanced. If a person manages their energy levels with exercises, Udana is balanced. If a person interacts properly with nature and the environment, strengthens their body, then Vyana is regulated. Proper nutrition helps regulate Samana, which is related to digestion. We've covered the 5 pranas that govern our bodily functions. They all operate through the chakras, the subtle energy centers, and are then distributed throughout the body. Then these energies move in various directions from there. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.